Criminal defense attorney and former L.A. County Deputy District Attorney James E. Blatt joins us now to give us some analysis into day 8 in this trial. Let's talk about what Patrick Healy was just talking about. There were 2 fingerprints found in the room. The defense has stipulated, okay, that's all right. They're on the record. We've got Dr. Conrad Murray and the coroner's investigator. How do you now prove that Michael Jackson perhaps ingested the propofol, picked up the bottle and ingested it or injected himself?
Well, in this situation, it's not unusual for fingerprints. They're difficult to obtain from plastic. And the fact that Mr. Murray's fingerprint is there is explainable in the way that because he would have an obvious reason to touch the propofol containers. However, it does hurt because that particular propofol bottle was utilized in the IV system that the district attorney is alleging that killed Mr. Jackson. So there's no question that that is damaging evidence. And the fact that Mr. Jackson's fingerprints were not found anywhere.
But doesn't that blow their whole case? I mean, they've talked about the fact that it wasn't Dr. Conrad Murray, it was Michael Jackson himself who woke up and reached over and self-medicated here.
I think it's premature to say that it's blown their whole case. It has not. In this particular matter, probably Dr. Murray is going to have to testify. He's going to have to give his explanation of what happened, what he did or didn't do. But the simple fact that his fingerprint is there, although damaging, is not the most devastating aspect. And he's going to testify in all probability. He'll give an explanation, and that explanation will be that I did not do this, and I did not administer the fatal amount of propofol that killed Mr. Jackson.
All right, let's talk about Defense Attorney Ed Chernoff. He zeroed in on the investigator today, specifically the fact that she destroyed some of her investigative notes. Here's an excerpt of what went down in court. Let's listen to that.
Where was those handwritten notes? Where were they kept that you would have lost them?
Objection misstates the testimony.
The objection sustained. Did you lose them or did you intentionally delete them?
I intentionally destroy all of my notes from scenes once I write the Form 3A.
For people who watch television and see all these CSI shows and all these criminal shows, that seems a little odd. Is it normal to have someone destroy notes? Was that kind of an aha moment for the defense today?
No, it was not. It is relatively normal in reference to these types of cases, on homicide cases, where an investigator does take notes and then they destroy the notes as they incorporate it into the police report. However, it's best if you keep all your notes in a particular case because there are times when those notes may have a discrepancy. It is more professional to keep them, and she should have kept them. But it's not unusual. In fact, many federal agencies, the FBI, destroy their notes as they incorporate it. You're always looking for the perfect investigation. And when there's hundreds of decisions that are going to be made during a period of time, you're not going to find it.
The defense attorney also at one point in referencing something that she did in the bedroom said, you don't consider that a mistake. Whether it was a mistake or whether it wasn't, it certainly implies it to the jury. Is that one of those, the bell's been rung here?
Well, a defense attorney tactic is you give the question and you answer it. Isn't this really a mistake? And what she said, and what many investigators would say is, look, this is the normal course of business. It's not a mistake. You may have wanted it done in another way, but this is the way it was done, and this is the way I do it.
With this particular case, it's Michael Jackson. Do you not think an investigator would take more care knowing that perhaps some of this would end up in court?
Unfortunately not. I mean, you can look at this and you have a valid point. Everything that you do as an investigator, every minutia aspect of this case is going to be evaluated by the defense and by the media. So when you do these types of investigations, you should have an experienced investigator incorporating the coroner's investigation, perhaps a deputy district attorney that can give some guidance. You don't want to destroy your notes. You want to be very precise. For instance, the bottle that was taken out of the IV. The professional thing to do would be to photograph it. Now, from her common sense approach is, well, look, I'll take the bottle out, I'll photograph it. There you can see the label and everything else. But that's not the way it should be done. You photograph it inside the IV, and then you photograph it outside. So everything that you do as an investigator is going to be evaluated. But at the same time, you have to look at the totality of the circumstances. That propofol bottle was seen by many individuals in that IV case. So the jury's going to look at this and say, could something have been done better? Probably.
But there were no traces of propofol in this saline solution. There was none in the tubing. We've heard the bodyguard testify. He saw some milky substance there. Does it dissipate that quickly?
It could dissipate, but I'll tell you what, there was tremendous traces in Mr. Jackson's body. No question that Mr. Jackson died from an overdose of propofol. Mm-hmm. And it appears that whoever gave that overdose was involved in criminal negligence. So the basis of this case at this time
Where
is
did he get it and who administered?
Who administered the fatal.
Let's talk about that. The toxicologist testified this afternoon that he found only trace amounts of propofol in Michael Jackson's stomach when he was questioned by the prosecution. Let's listen in.
And talking specifically about the gastric contents as it relates to propofol and lidocaine, the propofol being on top with the measurement of 0.13 milligrams in the gastric contents. Visually, because this is an actual quantity of drug in the stomach contents, correct?
Correct.
It's not a concentration, it's actual, how would you describe it?
Well, I mean, the easiest thing to visualize is you go to restaurants, you have a sweet and low pack, or you have a sugar pack that you see commonly on the tables. Those are a gram packages. There are 1,000 milligrams in that package. So equating the 0.13 milligrams that I'm measuring of propofol in comparison to that sugar pack of 1,000 milligrams, talking at least 1,000, at least 100,000 million of it.
Okay, so the 0.13 milligrams is basically the equivalent of specks of sugar crystals from a 1 gram sugar packet you might see in a restaurant. Is that close enough?
To equate to that, yes.
Okay, have you lost the jury on this now? Because there were all these numbers, and even with the graphs, it's really hard to understand.
Well, you're going to lose the jury, both the prosecution and the defense, several times during this trial. There's going to be some very scientific evidence. It could be boring. It could be distant, and they may not connect with the jury. But the bottom line is that the propofol that was administered killed Mr. Jackson. Who did it? And that's the key issue. There's no question. And one other thing, whoever administered that propofol was involved in, other than Mr. Jackson, had to have been involved with criminal negligence because there was just too much propofol given to him.
Normally, the way you administer propofol is intravenously.
Right.
The fact that they found even that minuscule amount in his stomach has led to some speculation he may have tried to drink it. Is that perhaps where the defense is going with this?
I think they are going to try and make that effort, but it's going to be a battle of the experts as to whether this was possible or not. So the prosecution is going to bring their experts that this is a physical impossibility. They're going to, and then Mr. Murray obviously is going to have to testify, and then there will be a credibility call by the jury, one way or the other.
No doubt in your mind that Dr. Murray's going to have to testify, you think?
Well,
he's going to have to?
I think that, if he wants to get his message out there, there's only one person who truly knows what happened for a significant part of that time, and that's Dr. Murray.